Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Recipe Redemption. I'm Mike Uyak. At the time of this recording, it is about 3 weeks past Easter, and we all know what that means. Half-price chocolate at the grocery store, right? But because it's 3 weeks past Easter, it means that it's also a couple weeks past Passover. So that means discount Jewish food in the clearance aisle at the grocery store as well. Maybe not everywhere, but at least where I live, there is at least enough of a Jewish community that there is Jewish food offered at the grocery store. Hi. Someone always wants attention. Yes, I know. It's horrible. So, if it wasn't already obvious, I should let you know, I am not Jewish. So I wasn't raised in the Jewish traditions. I haven't really had a whole lot of exposure to traditional Jewish foods. Although Mother did partake of the Manischewitz from time to time. Hello. Do you need something? He doesn't really need anything. He has food, he has water, he gets lots of attention. And yet. So, I guess I only have one hand for this. First, we're trying matzo ball soup. We're hitting the big ones. I don't know how traditional Lipton matzo ball soup is, but we're having it. The other thing that we are trying is, of course, the clearance label, clearance sticker covers it up, but it's gefilte fish. Always wanted to try that as well. I've heard about it, not really known what it was or what it tasted like, but it's a thing. So we're trying them. Now, they both feature matzah. So that is a word that we should probably enter into our vocabulary. Matzah is an unleavened bread. In the Torah, God commands the Jewish people that they should only eat unleavened bread. Don't add any yeast to your bread. Don't only make it from the 5 grains, I believe, that are guaranteed to not be self-leavening. I'm not sure what makes them self-leavening, if they carry particularly active strains of wild yeast on them, and so you don't have to add any. They rise all on their own. I don't know. In any case, matzah is a flatbread that is made unleavened. Flatbread that is made from these grains, and do a number of things with it. You can eat it as is. You can grind it into sort of a coarse, basically breadcrumbs, or into a finer meal, useful in cooking, as a thickener, as a binder, and that's pretty much what you're using it for today. Matzo balls, pretty much just matzah meal, sometimes egg, a little bit of oil, sometimes a little bit of water. That's pretty much it. It's basically reconstituting these breadcrumbs into a ball, boiling them in a flavorful stock, usually like a chicken stock, I think is what this is in. Chemicals. Let's see. God, I can't read anything these days. Onion powder, spices, turmeric, oleo resin for color, garlic powder, natural flavor. What is the flavor of the stock other than spices and natural flavor and coconut oil? So I'm going to say, if you're keeping a kosher kitchen, this is not kosher. It does in a pinch, and for those of us who do not keep a kosher kitchen, it's fine. Gefilte fish is basically fish that is ground up and then mixed with matzah meal and spices, I'm assuming, potato starch, salt, powdered egg whites. Okay. Basically, the matzah is a sort of binder for the fish, and then they're poached, and then often eaten cold, which is why it's okay to sell them in a jar like this. Um, when they're jarred or canned, they're usually packed with a like a fish jelly, uh, like a thick fish stock. Um, so in Asian cuisines, fish balls are not uncommon. They are not an unknown thing. So I have actually tried something with that basic uh, texture. Everything from kind of a sort of pillowy dumpling all the way to like surimi, the crab with a K. It's actually a fish cake. Um, so fish cake, fish balls, totally fine. So I don't expect these will be very weird, but I've never tried them before. So let's try them. First, the matzo ball soup. We got to make that.
So this will be fairly quick since I am simply following the instructions on the package. There's no real recipe for you to follow here. Just beat an egg until kind of frothy and then adding the matzo meal. And as you can see as I pour this out, this is the style that is fairly chunky. It's coarse. It almost looks like steel cut oats coming out of this rather than, like breadcrumbs. Just stirring that together until the wet incorporates into the dry. And yes, it does take a moment because it's so chunky. They don't absorb very quickly. But once you've done that, you've got goop. Mazel tov. In the meantime, to some boiling water, I add the soup stock. This is Lipton, so that's probably just Lipton chicken soup base. And I've rolled the matzo meal into marble size balls and boil for 10 minutes.
And that's how the matzo balls are cooked. Now, let those cool a little bit. They were just boiling a second ago. So I'm going to start off with the gefilte fish. See if I can do this without pouring it all over the table. So giving myself a good bit of the jelly out of the jar. I'm told that you can enjoy these cold, usually garnished with a piece of cooked carrot. I'm not all that interested in cooked carrot. I know what a carrot tastes like. But let's try a bit of the jelly first. It's odd because it actually tastes like chicken noodle soup. There's a starchiness to it, but it doesn't taste fishy at all. So it actually reminds me of, like Campbell's chicken noodle soup, the concentrate out of the can. You got to add a can of water to it and heat it up. Blah blah blah. It kind of reminds me of that. If it's cold, there's a certain body to it. It's thicker. That's kind of what this jelly reminds me of. So here is some of the gefilte fish. It's a very, very soft texture. Breaks apart in the mouth. It's not particularly fishy, and I don't know if that's because it's like 50% fish and 50% matzo, so it's very starchy. No chewing necessary. There's an odd aftertaste. Now, it doesn't taste a whole lot like fish. It doesn't really taste a whole lot like anything. Because of the texture, it sort of reminds me of like deviled chicken. That sort of canned processed chicken. It is supposed to be fish. But I'll be damned if I can tell what kind of fish it was. Bread fish. And there's just there's a slightly sour aftertaste that's sort of on the finish. That reminds me of canned fish. It reminds me of canned. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Canned, like herring, bony fish that are canned with the bones. If you get a little bit of that bone, and this is a weird take on this, I know, but if you get a little bit of that bone, is actually what the aftertaste tastes like. Is fish bones. And there's a cognitive disconnect because there is definitely not the texture of fish bones here. It's so soft and so smooth. Yep, there's that aftertaste. I don't know that there's anyone in the Jewish community who actually craves gefilte fish, or if it's just a thing that you eat at Passover and other Jewish holidays. Please let me know down in the notes below, because I don't know. I just know that some people eat this sometimes. That's the extent I know about gefilte fish, other than what's in it. Not my favorite thing in the world, but I'm not sure that it's anybody's favorite thing in the world. Now, okay, a little bit of an internet break. Did some research. I know more now. Gefilte fish. Meow. Let me finish. Gefilte fish. There is a prohibition in Jewish law from picking the bones from fish on the Sabbath. So they got around that by grinding the fish before cooking. That's why it tastes like there's fish bones in this, because there are. In a weird way, I'm kind of proud of myself that I actually tasted that. This is where my brain goes. Matzo ball soup. The matzo balls have basically doubled in size. They were maybe about 3/4 of an inch across, and now they're more like an inch and a half. The stock or soup that it came with, it became thicker. I don't know if you can actually see the sort of body of this. I'm not pouring it very evenly, so it looks like it's glopping off the spoon when it's not. It's smooth, but it's got a certain texture, viscosity to it. Not quite, slimy or mucilaginous or anything, but it's holding a little bit more than just plain broth. These are still hot as hell. A little soup. Salty. Reminiscent of chicken bouillon. So the matzo ball, despite having expanded, is still quite dense. I don't know if I needed to cook it for longer. I cooked it for as long as the packaging said to. But I was expecting something a little pillowier, considering how long I cooked it, how much they expanded, etc. They were pretty dense when I mixed them up, so I'm not too surprised, but they did expand, and I was expecting them to be softer. They are fairly bland, and they do taste like there's a toastiness to them that does remind you that you have actually taken bread that has been baked, ground it back into a meal, and then made it into dumplings. You do not forget that fact. I don't really know the history behind matzo balls. If this was just a way to use up matzah, if this recipe ultimately originated during times of great want and scarcity, and so they made the best with what they had. They had some sort of soup stock, and they had matzah meal around, maybe an egg or two, and made this meal. I don't know. Turns out, as with many of these kinds of things, the answer is kind of not really.
Matzo balls originated in the Jewish communities of Northern Europe, the Germany, Austria area, in the Middle Ages, adapting the local dumpling called a knödel to kosher ingredients, specifically using the crumbs from broken matzah bread to make them. Eventually, as people immigrated to other areas of Europe, they took the idea of the matzo ball with them, and during the Industrial Revolution of the mid to late 1900s, with the advent of mass produced matzo meal, they became available as a year round comfort food. But their origin comes as much from simple frugality as it does from scarcity. So, now you know.
Again, a traditional dish, not one that I necessarily would crave. They become traditional foods, in some cases comfort foods. You know, we've seen even on this channel traditional foods that have become nostalgic for people because they grew up with it. It's part of the culture, and it doesn't matter that it tastes like library paste or whatever. It's comforting. It brings back memories of holiday meals with family. So I get it. Even if it's not my cup of tea, it doesn't have to be my cup of tea because I don't have to have this every year. So it was worth trying. And yeah, it's not that bad. So I would recommend giving it a shot if you're curious. And, you know, if you happen to see some on clearance, pick some up. It's actually not half bad. So with that glowing endorsement, thanks for watching. And if there's other things that you'd like to see me try, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption.